Okay, big challenge versus the Ravens. Obviously, a unique scenario to play them back to back with the bye in between, but really looking forward to having a great week. We had an extra day here on Monday with the guys coming off of the bye. Got some really good work in on Monday, and then today is Wednesday, and we got to have a great Wednesday. So that's kind of where our focus is. But happy to answer any questions.
Kevin, are you hopeful that David might be able to play on Sunday?
You just don't know. Yeah, sure, I'm hopeful, but we have to just plan. If we don't have them, if we have them, that'd be great.
And then how does that, I mean, you love that 13 personnel, and I know you brought somebody up, but like how does that sort of affect your game planning this week and what you guys can do?
Yeah, Dan, that's something we sit down every week and say, all right, who's available to us? Where do we want to go? And you're right, when you do have David and Harrison and Hoop, 13 is a big part of who we are. If we don't have those guys, obviously you have to pivot, and those are some of the conversations of how we do that. Where do we want to go? What do we want to do more of? What do we want to do a little bit less of?
Kevin, I know you're not going to give away strategy, but what is the balance between we run these formations because we love them, and hey, we might need a spot? Like, what is that as the play caller?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think specifically to 13, we feel really good about those three guys, and ultimately, you try to put your best players on the field and use them to their best ability. Not to say we don't feel really good about other personnel groupings. It's not like you stay in that the entire game, but we just got to make sure that we do our job as coaches of putting guys in position to make plays, really regardless of what personnel's out there.
What do you know? Can you tell us about this Forrestal, who deactivated?
Yeah, he's been with us for quite a bit of time, so we've been around him, get to see him work against our defense and scout team situations, very attentive, very good in the meeting room, so felt like he would help us just based on his readiness.
I know you. Go ahead.
Have you made any decisions about right tackle?
I think we're working through that. We've made decisions, Tony. I'm not going to announce it right this minute, but we feel good about the five guys.
So, you mean your five starters?
Yeah.
So, is it fair to say you're having an audition at that position this week?
No, I wouldn't say we're having an audition. I'd just tell you, with all of our positions, we do this every week. We go across the board, offense, defense, special teams, and figure out the guys we want to play with. And the truth is, and you've seen it around our game and other games, everybody's got to be ready to play because you get one play into this thing and you're thrust into the starting lineup.
I get what you're saying about you have to adapt every week given who's up. Is it more of a challenge if you're down to one or two tight ends just because you do use them as much as you do?
Yeah, I think there are things we can do, Scott. Those are kind of the conversations you have about, what plays do we want to run, what personnel groupings do we have to be in those plays, and then ultimately, is it worth putting a guy out there that hasn't done that? So those are all conversations we have, and again, I think it goes back to, as coaches, we just got to make sure we put a plan out there that the guys can, number one, play to the best of their ability, but also play fast and not be thinking a lot.
Kevin, out of the bye, I'm sure there's more things you want to sit down and implement with guys. What is that balance of trying to correct things while also preparing for the
Yeah,
Ravens?
that's a good question because you do come out of the bye with things that you want to augment and adjust and those type of things, but you can't do all of them at once, and just to do that would probably be doing a disservice to your offense, defense, or special teams. So there are definitely things that we identified that we want to do better. I think that's obvious. But we also got to make sure that we're doing it within the scope of trying to get a win this week.
Kevin, I imagine that getting 4 picks again is going to be difficult. So, what do you have to improve on defensively?
You're saying from the last game, Jeff?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's always room for improvement. And listen, they're going to adjust, and so are we. I think that's kind of how it works in this game. They're going to go back and look at what worked, maybe some things that didn't work, and so we're anticipating that we're going to certainly see some wrinkles from them.
Kevin, you did put Harrison Bryant on IR, so did you get some good news about him, considering it's a high ankle sprain, as they're usually, being in this 3 games?
Yeah, I'd tell you, Nate, he's progressing. I'm not ready to say exactly what we're going to do or when we can expect him back, but he's progressing.
Do you rule him out?
I would rule him out for this game, yes.
I know you said Baker's looked better the last couple of weeks with the injuries. He said he felt good coming out of the bye. Did you see it Monday? That there was a difference in how he was able to move around?
I don't know that I saw a difference necessarily, Scott, but I mean, he looked good Monday. He was moving around, looked like himself. So I think he was pleased with where he is currently.
With Anthony, I know concussions are different for every guy. Is he around? Do you know if he's feeling okay? Is he doing better?
Yeah, I mean, he's here. He's still in the protocol, and we just got to make sure we follow the protocol.
Kevin, when people look at like Austin Hooper's numbers, they don't really jump out. But could you just talk about what he has been able to give you outside of the box score, and just how much more important does he become for you from a production standpoint, considering you might not have David and obviously Harrison?
Yeah, I think, as you guys know, and I've talked about it, Hoop gives us a lot of valuable reps out there going back to last year. And I know it's easy to point to some of the statistics, but, David Njoku is out there as well, and Harrison's out there as well. So we're featuring that tight end group as opposed to just one guy. Now, without those guys, certainly you can expect Hoop's number of plays to go up, and we're counting on him. And I think he relishes those type of opportunities. But he's been instrumental in what we do as an offense, run game, pass game.
Kevin, given everything that's going on with the Ravens defensive backs right now and some of the absences they have, I guess, how can you guys take advantage of that? How important is that to, maybe keep their defense honest so they can't load up the box like you said?
Yeah, I think, actually, we got to go into this game like we do every week and say, all right, where are their strengths, where are their weaknesses, likewise for us, and put a game plan in accordingly. It's a really, really good defense. They got great coaches over there. They have great players. They have depth. So we're going to have our work cut out for us.
Kevin, do you believe in selling out or win, doing absolutely everything and not worrying about the next game? Even though there's 4 more games after this one, it's almost that type of situation.
I don't know if I'd put it that way, Tony, but I would tell you I think you have to put everything you have into that 1 week. These are 1-game seasons, so for us, our focus really goes to this week and whatever we can do to get a win.
For instance, like you've monitored the use of Chubb and Hunt over the course of 17 games.
Yeah.
And, it's now or never time.
Yeah.
Are you worried about overworking a guy in this game?
Yeah, I think we'll always be mindful, Tony, of the next weeks as coaches. I think we have to, but specifically to Nick and Kareem, I think they're both ready for a big workload. That's just they've taken care of their bodies. They've done a really nice job throughout this season to make sure that they're ready to go.
Hey Kevin, when we talked to you on Monday, you talked about the energy they had in practice, and when we just talked to Austin Hooper, he said that guys ran out of gas the last couple of weeks. Did you get a sense of that?
I didn't, but obviously, Hoop's got a good feel for his guys. This late bye, there's other teams that have the late bye as well. I think there's teams that have the bye later than us. So we've tried to be mindful from a workload standpoint, but it's a long season, and it can be taxing physically, it can be taxing mentally.
So you and other coaches always talk about the turnover ratio being the biggest indicator. Ravens are -8.
Right.
How do you explain their season being on top of the division with that number?
Yeah, it's a good question, Tony. I think they've overcome those at certain times. They've won a lot of close games. They've come from behind in some fourth quarters. Their last game here came down to the wire, so they've played well in tight games.
Kind of found up what Ashley asked. Without Marlon Humphrey, do you think that changes what they're going to do defensively because he's such a key piece?
I mean, he is a key piece, great player. You hate to see that for them. But does it change them? I think remains to be seen. Again, I think they have a really good scheme. I think they got really good players, but remains to be seen.
And Baker talked again about having answers for what they do from a pressure perspective, or even a bunch of guys at the line of scrimmage perspective. So, from a play caller, how does that challenge you the most when a team does that with all those guys?
You're saying all the guys?
Yeah, all the guys at the line of scrimmage.
Yeah, certain teams play different styles, and there's advantages and disadvantages to all of them. again, with all those players up at the line of scrimmage, sometimes they bail them, sometimes they bring them, sometimes they bring them from the weak side, sometimes they bring them from the strong side. So I think that's they do a nice job with their scheme, keeping you off balance and not knowing when they're coming and which side they're coming. But ultimately for us as coaches, on the flip side of that, we have to put together a game plan that can account for those type of things and then go make a big play. When you do have that many guys up at the line of scrimmage, there should, in theory, be some grass opened up in the defensive secondary.
Considering how all Delpit's been through, how gratifying was it to see him get the block?
Yeah, I
And
thought that.
Denzel, too.
Sure. Yeah, I thought the Denzel was a great choice. Excuse me, Grant was a great choice for the Ed Block Courage Award, and I think what's so great about that is it's voted on by your peers. So I think his teammates saw all the work that he put in the training room, in the weight room to get ready for this season. So really proud of Grant in that regard. And then Denzel, is very, very deserving of that honor with what he does in this community. I think it's just it's outstanding, and he works so hard. Again, somebody that maybe doesn't say a ton, out here on the field, or not really somebody that's looking for all the attention, but he does a great job in the community.
Kevin, you guys in Baltimore have had a lot of adversity this year, especially in the form of injuries. And it just, outside looking in, it just seems no matter what gets thrown at the Ravens, they always find a way to be successful and deal with it. And you guys have kind of been on a little bit of a roller coaster this year. How do you, why do you think Baltimore has been able to be so resilient? And how do you, as the coach, get this team to that level where you guys can maybe be as not to say you haven't been resilient, but to be at that level? And they're 8-4 and leading the division.
Yeah, I can't speak to, respectfully, I can't speak to them. I would just tell you with us, when the injuries you face and some of the challenges, that's everybody's facing those. So we're not ever going to use those things as an excuse. And you said it, you have to find a way. And that's been our focus from day one. We have to find a way, regardless of what's going on in the game, outside the game, injuries or otherwise, we got to find a way.
You talked a lot about what you do best as a team, specifically offense. And we know you guys run the ball the best. It's their best on defense is stopping the run. How difficult is it to resist the temptation of looking at their secondary banged up and going away from what you do best just because it's not what they do?
Yeah, I think it's a good question, Tony. I think ultimately we're trying to find ways to be explosive, and whether it's through the ground or through the air, that's what we're searching for. How we play and how we call it is always based on that opponent, that game, what we feel like gives us the best chance. So it's certainly something that we start talking about, on that Monday when you look at your opponent and you look at you and you say, all right, how do we want to handle this game?
Could you ever imagine yourself running the ball 46 times and throwing it 3?
Yeah, in that wind, for sure. Yeah, that was pretty crazy.
Does that, along the line of Tony's question though, does that emphasize what he's talking about in that you stick with what you do best regardless of the situation, or do you have to take everything into account?
I think you do, Tom. I think you have to take everything into account, including weather. But our focus is playing, a clean brand of football. We've been good at moments this season when we're playing freely, run and pass, staying on schedule, not hurting ourselves with penalties or negative plays, those type of things. So that's really our main focus.
Kevin, we saw Clowney have an active game last week. What's he been like when we haven't seen? What, day to day, week to week over the course of the year?
Yeah, JD's been great. Practices hard, certainly plays hard, prepares well. I think you see his length and his speed show up in these games. So he's given us some really good reps.